Hey, everybody, it is Scott Steen with WinnersandWhiners.com, and welcome to the Monday edition of Winners and Whiners Radio. I am the lead handicapper over there at Winners and Whiners, and I am joined, as always, by my partner and co-host. He is senior handicapper at Winners and Whiners. He is Scott Reichel. Scott, happy Monday.
Yep, good to be back. Pretty interesting weekend. A lot of sports on the card. A lot of, let's just say, interesting outcomes and some stupid people in the world. We'll get to that in a little bit. But overall, how was your weekend?
It was all right. It was a good time. A lot of rain. Had a little flooding. Son moved back to town. So yeah, it was fun. Had a little family get together for brunch and had some barbecue on Saturday night. So all things considered, could have been worse. Had a decent weekend as far as winning the bets. I'll take it. I will take it. So yeah, we do have a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. Nhl Finals starts tonight, the Stanley Cup final. Lord Stanley. What did Lord Stanley do, Scott? Do you know?
Well, since he was a lord, I'm assuming he was a god. No, I believe he was I have no idea.
Okay, good enough.
He was in a position of power, let's put it that way.
Something to do with hockey. He invented the stick. Before that, they were just slapping it around with their hands. I don't know.
After that, he was a big fan of cups.
Big fan of cups. He invented the cup. So, and there you go. If you've ever taken one in the area the cup protects, you would pretty much give a lot of awards to Lord Stanley.
Lord Stanley Solo, inventor of the Solo Cup.
Very nice. All right, Scott. So let's do it. Let's get to it. Let's talk about the good news and the bad news, the people that did well and the people that might have had a little unexpected loss when they thought they had a victory. We start, as we always do, with the bad beat section. Scott, nothing you can do when you catch a bad beat. You just want to take out your phone and call the cops. All right, we will get it going as we always do. And let's start in the Major League. Scott, Nationals and Marlins. If you had the over 6.5, you're in pretty good shape early. Two teams going at it, putting up 6 runs going into the bottom of the 6th inning. You got to feel good, Scott. Got to feel good in that one. Unfortunately, that's exactly where the game ended. They couldn't put up one more lousy run in 3.5 innings. It's the Nationals and Marlins doing what they do best, not scoring runs. And if you had the over 6.5 in that one, I'm sorry, that was a very attractive total, but it didn't get there. You can call the cops.
And the second one's going to be in a player prop in the only basketball game on yesterday between the Bucks and the Hawks. If you had Clint Capella and you were looking at the center for the Hawks and thought, he should probably have a good game on the boards after having 19 rebounds earlier in the series, that looked like it was going to be the case for this one because the over-under was 11.5 rebounds. He had 11 rebounds through 3 quarters. You got to assume you're good as long as he plays the 4th quarter. And for some reason, he did not play the 4th quarter. The Hawks did not use him. They used Okongwu instead, and Capella ended up having 0 rebounds in the 4th quarter because he didn't play in the 4th. And if you had the over 11.5, he had to finish with exactly 11. That is pretty bad.
Everybody was Okongwu fighting. Does that surprise you, Scott?
That he didn't play or that you were seeing Kung Fu fighting?
I was seeing Okongwu fighting, but yes, that he didn't play.
I didn't really understand it. I thought that he did the best job on Giannis in the entire game because at least he has some weight that can, I'd say, match Giannis physically. And if you're going to force Giannis to take fadeaway jumpers and some layups outside of easy Kareem layups, then you got to at least put a body on him. I didn't think Okongwu was that bad, but I don't really know why you went away from Capella when he is your best rebounder and probably your best post defender. It didn't really make any sense to me, but that's not why they lost the game. But if you had the player prop over there, I would be scratching my head because I thought he didn't play that badly today.
So basically they took out Capella and Young, and although Young technically only sat out 5 minutes or so, but when he came back in the 4th quarter, he was kind of a shadow of himself, mainly used as a decoy, and was definitely not the player that he had been for the first 3 quarters and the playoffs so far. Basically, I'd say if they lost, that had to be the reason. But
yeah, I just didn't really understand the Capella aspect of it.
That made no sense at all. So Scott, let's finish it up with a rare trip to the world of golf. Well, man, You gotta love the week after the majors when a lot of the big guys take that time off, and you get a chance for some of the lesser known golfers to make their mark on the tour. And that is what happened in this one. Scott went to a playoff in the Travelers Championship between those two household names. Harris English, you might know Harris English. He's had a couple of top 5 finishes at the U.S. Open. But if you know Kramer Hickok, congratulations, you are a golf geek. And if you had Kramer Hickok to win in the Travelers, you had yourself a fine ticket, as that was a 250-1 long shot. And young Mr. Hickok found himself tied after 72 holes with Harris English, who sunk a big putt on the 18th hole to get to that point. So, Scott, they go to the playoff, and it goes 8 holes, 7 straight pars until English finally birdies the 8th playoff hole for the victory. But Hickok was not without his chances. He lipped out 2 birdie putts in the extra time that would have given him the victory and would have given you a 250-1 long shot winner. If you had Kramer Hickok plus 250-1, man, you absolutely had to call the cops.
Definitely not a fun time when you maybe accidentally bet on the wrong golfer. I don't know who voluntarily would have been betting on Kramer Hickok, but if you did, good for you, but unfortunately it was not that good for you.
I meant to put my money on Cockrack.
Yeah.
Instead, I got Hickok.
Yeah, and then you just go through it, and then you realize, do I hit the eject button after the 4th playoff hole, the 7th playoff hole? What do I do?
Oh, I hope you took the buyout opportunity there.
I don't know how many people would have bet on Hickok in the world, let alone legally at sports books.
I understand.
Whatever percentage of them, I got to assume they hedged at some point in day 4. Wouldn't you agree?
You would hope so.
Yeah.
You would absolutely hope so. Although, I don't know. You had 3 guys that were tied for the lead after 17 holes there, Scott. So I don't know who exactly. I guess you're hedging on everyone.
Well, I was trying to say, let's just say that you were able to hedge maybe going into the playoff, if that was allowed. Some books gave you a cash out option.
Yeah.
What price do you think you'd even get on Hickok at that point just to cash out?
100-1.
You think you'd get 100-1? I think that sounds about right.
Yeah. I think that's about where you're at.
Yep.
So hopefully you hit the eject button at that point, because that was where you had other chances, but that was where the nose was like just about to the ground. And
well, the books will never give you the exact 50-50 if you end up cashing out early. So 100.
No. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying at 100-1. So
it means if you had $20 on that, you could have cashed out and made $2,000.
Yep. Could have made $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
But no, Scott, you're holding out for the $5,000.
Yep.
You've got a ticket that's a good fire starter.
Sucker.
All right. So the other side of that, these are the victories that are a little easier, Scott. These are the ones where they start off well and they finish well, and they're probably good in the middle part as well. You had nice, easy winners. You did nothing but kiss that ticket and make plans about how to spend your money. It is time for the rocking chair.
So, first one we're going to talk about was between the Yankees and the Red Sox. And if you had the Red Sox yesterday or Friday or Saturday, really kind of any time this season, you had a rocking chair win. They ended up sweeping. Yesterday we're going to focus on that game because Garrett Cole was on the mound, and you might have thought, the Yankees might avoid the sweep. Maybe they'll roll with their ace on the mound. That did not happen because Boston at plus 145 was up 4-0 after the bottom of the first, up 6-0 in the third, ended up winning 9-2. It was good for me because I got Boston and Tampa to both win the division, so they definitely helped create some space for me. But if you had the Yankees at all this weekend, ouch, I'll tell you that much.
Yes. You were not in the rocking chair at all.
You were if you had the Red Sox, though.
Yeah, absolutely true. Hey, if you had the Atlanta Braves, Cincinnati Reds under 10, that was a fine play. 2-0 after 3, 4-0 after 6, and that's where it ended up. 4 zippy Atlanta Braves, Cincinnati Reds under 10. We're sitting in the rocking chair.
And the last one was in baseball between the Astros and the Tigers on Sunday. If you had the under 9, pretty easy. Astros were up 1-0. Going into the 7th, Detroit tied it, 1-1 going into the 9th. Stayed that way, so you might have been worried a little bit of some extra inning shenanigans, but that did not happen. Houston did not score in the top of the 10th, and the Tigers decided, you know what, we're the Tigers, let's go for the squeeze play. And it worked, and they ended up winning the game 2-1.
Walk-off squeeze play. Just not utilized nearly enough, Scott.
I love the squeeze play, assuming your guy actually knows how to bunt, which is kind of a lost art in the sport. But
lost art.
Yeah, definitely good job by Detroit. Can't believe they won a series against Houston.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. You thought, because Houston was rolling coming into
Detroit 5-1 against Houston. Houston better hope they don't see them in the playoffs.
I think they're safe.
I think they're good too, but the Tigers, props to Hinch. He got his team doing pretty well against the Astros for some reason.
Absolutely. And a quick reminder, everybody, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour. We'll give you the winners. That's what we do around these parts. And, of course, we are brought to you by, well, it's a shocking development, but we are brought to you by WinnersandWhiners.com, the #1 site in the world for predictive sports analysis. Each day, people from over 150 countries stop by WinnersandWhiners.com to check out previews and predictions, get the latest information on odds movements. That was an odd movement. Odds movements, weathers, and player injuries. WinnersandWhiners.com. Every game, every day, always free. Check it out, won't you? All right, Scott. So like we said, there was a lot going on this weekend, but Hector Santiago will go down, and maybe they're going to put his hat in the Hall of Fame, Scott, because he was the first player tossed in the great rosin crackdown of 2021, Scott. Found a little sticky substance on the inside of his glove. They conferred. All 4 umpires got together, and they launched him. He was gone, just a memory. Scott Santiago, 14 innings pitched, 8 games, 2.45 ERA. Is this the kind of high-profile criminal that we've been hoping to ensnare?
I feel like they were aiming more for Garrett Cole, but I guess this is a decent consolation prize.
Just a bit outside.
Yeah, as a whole, they got somebody. I feel like that's kind of I'm trying to think of the right way to describe this. It's not exactly the 3,000-pound marlin, but it's a decent grouper.
Okay.
If you're fishing, I mean, you got something. You're not going home empty-handed.
You don't have to throw him back.
Yeah, you don't have to throw him back, and you don't have to worry about why you spend so much money going on a fishing boat for an entire afternoon. You got something, but not exactly what Major League Baseball hoped for. It seems like it's still a lot of hassle, and I guess the point is that even if you don't catch anybody, MLB's going to complain or make the argument that, well, the only reason why they're not getting caught is because they're afraid of getting caught, so it's automatically working by default. And I don't really have a counter to that because you make the argument that's true. It just seems like a lot of just steps, and it seems like nobody actually enjoys the procedure. Even the umpires enjoy stopping the pitcher after every half inning.
I do not.
So I just think it's
I don't know that it's there for anyone's enjoyment.
No, that's what I'm saying. So I just think everybody's fed up with it. But baseball and the commissioner decided that it was best for the interest of the sport, and they're going to keep doing it. But do I think that catching one guy changes much? No, but I think that you can always look back on it and maybe say, remember that one time we caught Hector Santiago? We taught him a lesson.
That'll teach him.
That'll teach him and the rest of the league not to mess with us. Like, no, I don't think it really changes anything. You?
How did Garrett Cole do this weekend, Scott?
Not well, but he had a couple of starts before that where he did pitch well, and the spin rates were down in his starts anyway. So I'm not going to overreact to one bad Cole start because he pitched pretty well in the last couple of games before that. But what do you think? Have you noticed more higher scoring games lately, or do you feel like it's kind of the same? Because it still feels like the same to me.
It does feel like the same. It doesn't. In fact, we had a combined no hitter. Was over the weekend, right? That was Friday night.
The Cubs.
That was Friday night, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't feel like, because we talked about that, about being, ready to pounce on the overs and things like that they could start trending upwards. But that does not appear to be the case. Now, obviously, we need a little more. We need a little more data than just a week they've been doing this officially, 10 days or so.
Give or take. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have a lot of people striking out because that's their only approach at the plate is to either home run or strike out. But I thought that you might see a couple more high-scoring games. I'm sure you're going to get those no matter what, because if the pitchers are bad, then spin rates aren't going to help them because they might just be bad. But
apparently, everybody the Astros faced last week had to stop using some sort of substance.
Mostly Baltimore's pitching. And apparently they're playing against each other again. I'm curious how that's going to go.
I don't know how that works. They're not in the same division, but they seem to play each other all the time.
I don't know either. But I don't think Houston's going to complain about that.
No. You know how it's going to go for Houston? Pretty well. That's how it
should.
I would agree with that. So
what do you think about them catching Santiago? Do you think it matters? I don't think it really matters.
I don't think it matters, although, they obviously knew they were serious before. There's, stopping and checking the pitchers multiple times per game. So it's not like, oh, they got somebody, so now we know they're serious. I mean, they, seem to be looking pretty hard before. Of course, Santiago should come as a shocker to nobody. Claims complete innocence. Just going to be sweat and rousing because I guess, God, they have to bag up the glove. They send it off to, I don't know, the Law and Order CSI team, or I don't know who they said. They send it to some lab that looks at it, tries to determine what's going on there. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. Should be a nonstop summer of exciting fun.
For the hopes of Major League Baseball, I hope they don't store it in the same facility as Ryan Braun's urine sample.
Did they get contaminated or something, or the chain of custody? What was
they
the
left
deal?
it open, and then Braun ended up winning a lawsuit because he complained that they didn't store it properly. And that was the reason why it ended up coming back positive. So that was a while back. People might have forgotten about that.
Hey, real quick, Scott, we talked on the show last week about UFC fighter Justin James. Bet his whole purse, Scott, $25,000 on his fight over the weekend. How'd it go?
Well, I feel we got to segue quickly. I know we're going to get back to James, but this kind of segues into a new segment that we might end up deploying on the show. It's called the Daily Dummy. And we want to kind of just discuss on which person we think is dumber in the situation.
Yep.
So in the first side, in the red corner, we have Justin James. And as you said, he bet his entire purse. We mentioned him briefly on the show. And he lost. And it was a split decision. It was close, but
it's kind of a weird decision, too, the way they judged it. But
it was because one judge gave a 30-27 to Rosa. But still, he ended up losing. Now, if you look at his UFC record, I said his weight class didn't matter because he's probably not going to be in the UFC for much longer. That's kind of a hot take, but now it's starting to look pretty accurate because he's 1-4 in the UFC on a 4-fight losing streak. I think he might have one more fight in him, but I think he's pretty much done. Not great when you're out $25K. The coaches are allegedly out money.
Right.
You're probably going to get cut. So not a great weekend for Justin James.
All right. So that's in the red corner. That is our contender for Dummy of the Day. Justin James bet his entire purse on one fight. Scott, I'm going to present the blue corner. A fan at the Tour de France. Tour de France got started on Saturday. I know I've told you this before, Scott. I don't know if I told her radio on. My wife is a huge Tour de France fan. Every year, 3 weeks, she's pretty much gone away. That's what she, for 6 hours a day, she's watching the Tour. It's inexplicable, but there it is. So I have had some experience with the Tour de France. So they let the spectators, I don't know if you've ever watched it, I'm sure you have. Spectators can get right there, right at the shoulder, right in the roadway, and then they get out of the way, they run with them. It's ridiculous.
It's a European Open concept.
Sure, that's exactly what it is. So sure as heck, they've had some incidents in the past. They had one of their biggest on opening day. As a fan, German sign, it was in German, saying hello to her grandmother and grandfather, got in the way, was waving it for the TV cameras, got run over by a German rider, ironically enough, and that started a chain reaction that took out a number of riders, some spectators. A couple people were injured, both spectators and riders. The ones that were able to keep going were all banged up. And now, Scott, the Tour de France said they are going to sue this woman as soon as they can find her. So that's going to cost her money. I don't know if it's going to cost her more than $25,000. I don't know if there's going to be criminal charges involved. So who's got your vote? Dummy of the day there, Scott.
I'm picking the German woman. I don't know, I'm not supposed to. She caused a crash of about 100 riders. Now, it's one thing if you want to say hi to your grandparents on TV. It's another thing to hold up a cardboard sign and not even look at the riders when they're showing up right next to you. That's the only reason why you're in the spot you are, is to see the riders go past you. How do you not even look at the people going past you? You didn't notice that there are 4 lanes of bikers right behind you, or cyclists, sorry, and you just decide, I'm going to hold up my sign and clothesline the guy in the front row. Genius.
That was a good
Genius
time.
maneuver. She deserves to get sued. She's an idiot.
Yes, Justin James could make a case that, maybe the judges were completely on his side. Maybe it wasn't a great decision. He's got an inkling of someone else to blame. She has no one to blame but herself.
She could blame her grandparents.
Blame her grandparents apparently for still being alive and watching the Tour de France. It's all on mommy and pop, or whatever. I can't remember the German names.
Papa.
I don't remember, dude. I wish I did. But all right. So the unnamed lady from the Tour de France. That's our very first. That's our inaugural dummy of the day. And that's a good one right there, Scott.
The dummy of the day, daily dummy. We're going to figure out a working.
The daily dummy. Yeah. All right.
Either way, that's pretty bad. On day 1, you cause about 100 cycle pileup. Come on.
Scott, is this just a ridiculous thing that they do at the Tour de France to let them get that close? I mean, they don't do that anywhere else. It's like the old newsreel footage from the 1910s when they used to have people down on the baseball field when you'd have the photographer, right beside him taking pictures.
You mean when Hank Aaron's rounding second base after he set the home run record? And
no, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about while the game was being played, not while he was. Although that was really something, as the guys just ran out and kind of picked him up around second or so, just pretty much ran.
Well, one guy gave him a handshake when he was going around. I mean, you have as a Royals fan, you're going to hate it, but you have the Chris Chambers home run by the Yankees, and he couldn't touch home. Yeah, Chambliss, sorry. He couldn't touch home plate, and he had to come back later to touch home plate because they just couldn't find it, because I'm pretty sure one of the fans stole home plate. But
I was a youngster when that game was on, and I was screaming at the TV. He never touched home. As God is my witness, I was doing that.
But the point is that you have had fan interactions. We saw in the NBA for the last couple of weeks, you had fans either spitting at players or throwing popcorn.
I was going to say, how's it going in the NBA?
You haven't really heard many issues since, so I guess that's a good start. But you also have less games to worry about, so that might help out. But this is a next level.
Less games in New York, that's helpful.
This is next level stupidity. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Imagine you're at a NASCAR race and you hold up an oak tag while one of the drivers is coming around turn 4. Are you serious? Like, there's a reason why that there is a fence around the actual track.
I don't know what an oak tag is.
It's a whiteboard. Like the poster signs you hold up. It's from an oak tag.
Why did you say whiteboard?
I just, because the company is like an oak tag. I just say oak tag.
Oak tag?
Yeah.
Is that what they're telling you in college now, to pick up an oak tag, not a whiteboard?
I in like middle school.
Huh?
I got that in middle school.
An oak tag?
Yeah.
They don't say whiteboard.
No. Because whiteboard, people think like a chalkboard, but it's just white. But it's like you can just write in markers.
Nobody think okay.
That's what I had in my high school. We had whiteboards.
Right.
No, but the whiteboards that we used were instead of chalkboards, so we didn't use the same term for posters. But anyway, the point is imagine that in NASCAR.
Imagine it.
You have Kyle Busch.
You know what it is.
You have Kyle Busch, who was a due. He won again today. But if you imagine him going around turn 4, and you just have a massive poster that just hits him right in the front windshield, and he takes out 30 cars. I feel like that's stupid. I don't think that's that complicated.
You know who wouldn't take that well is Tony Stewart.
I was going to say Danica Patrick. She would have crashed anyway, but I guess that shot's fired.
Those guys are going faster than you think. I've been to a couple bike races, and and they average. It's still the Tour de France is one of the most incredible physical feats for me, that these guys are biking about, 80 miles a day. And they average, Scott, around 30 miles an hour.
I was going to say, it didn't seem like they were going on like a fast spot. It seemed like they were probably going around 20.
Yeah, it could have been going up. Yeah, I think they were going up kind of a hill too.
I'll say about 20 miles an hour, but still, like, that's the last thing that you need when you're racing other competitors is to get clotheslined by a piece of cardboard.
That's literally just about the last thing you need. You're absolutely correct. So hopefully she won't ruin it for everybody. It's fun to watch, to see the crowds going kind of nuts like that. It's, as a grumpy old safety man, I am always like, somebody's going to get hurt doing that.
I hope her grandparents can visit her in prison.
Good point. All right. So lastly, Scott, new coach, new day, new coach in the NBA, this time with Portland. Chauncey Billups was hired. It's not necessarily going very well up there with the fans of the Portland Trail Blazers because of the situation he had when he was a rookie in the NBA. There was a woman that was raped at I can't remember who's. It was one of his teammates' house, and he was a rookie. He was there, didn't participate in it. No criminal charges were filed, but he did reach an out-of-court financial settlement with the woman. So there was some blowback when he was hired, Scott. So kind of the same situation with Jason Kidd. He had a 2001 domestic violence arrest, 2012 DUI arrest. Of course, he just got hired in Dallas. No, first of all, a couple of questions. Is it okay for these guys? Is there some kind of mistake? I know there are. What constitutes a mistake you can't come back for, that can't come back from, that you will not be hired again under any circumstances ever?
That's the thing, is it's kind of a cop-out answer, but it's all subjective. I mean, Jason Kidd pleaded guilty to domestic violence. So
Right.
He never denied at any point. He put his hands on his girlfriend or his wife, and apparently they felt like it's enough time. I mean, he has been a part of coaching staff since. He was an assistant coach on the Lakers team that won the title last year. So it seems like he's already been forgiven. I don't think it really matters if you're the assistant coach or the head coach. If you're still being employed by any professional NBA team, then I feel like you've already been forgiven. Does that make sense? At least in their minds?
It does, and I don't think it works that way for fans.
I agree. I think fans are going to feel their own way, which is completely justified. But am I surprised Jason Kidd got hired when all of this happened a couple of years ago? No, because nobody would have hired him as an assistant coach if they really thought it was a massive deal breaker.
Okay. So
And
you're saying he's working with the Lakers as an assistant coach the last few seasons. So
I'm saying, so Kidd has been around on coaching staff since the incident. It's not like he's been blackballed from the league, so I'm not surprised that he ended up getting a job. As for Chauncey, he doesn't have much head coaching experience, but wasn't he in the front office of one of these teams?
I don't know his exact background. That sounds right.
I'm just going to search that up quickly. But as a whole, I can't say I'm fully bothered by it, because I mentioned this when we talked about the Frank Clark incident over the weekend, which is the fact that the last week, is that most of these front offices care about winning. And that's pretty much it. I think you can talk about PR and how fans might be annoyed by it. I just looked it up, by the way. Chauncey Billups was an assistant coach for the Clippers this past year.
Clippers, not the Lakers. That's what I said.
So he was on a coaching staff. So the kind of same argument applies to both of the guys, which is the fact that if they were on a coaching staff anyway the season prior, does it really matter if they get a promotion or a head coaching job? Probably not, because they were already on a coaching staff. So they've already been forgiven in the eyes of the front offices in the league. But would I have hired Chauncey Billups? If you think he's a good coach and can help you win, I can't say that I'm surprised somebody else ended up hiring him. I think it looks worse when one of the other candidates he's against is Becky Hammon. I don't think that really looks too good when you pick the guy who was involved in a rape trial over the woman who's trying to become the first female head coach in the history of the NBA. That's not a great look. That's kind of a double whammy. Don't you think?
If you think of anywhere they would have done that, the Portland would have been a likely target. You know, they're pretty progressive up there in the Pacific Northwest. And so that was going to be my second question. Is it worth it from a PR standpoint for teams to mess with these guys? Now, obviously Dallas and Portland have made the decision that it is, but I don't really know why, Scott. I don't really know that Chauncey Billups or Jason Kidd, either one, are such fantastic hires that they are worth the blowback that they're getting.
Well, Jason Kidd, I don't think he's worth it, because his time with the Nets and the Bucks weren't really that impressive.
Right.
Chauncey, I don't know. I'm going to give Chauncey a shot with Portland because I loved him as a player. But at the end of the day, the question is, does Lillard like him? And Lillard wanted Jason Kidd hired. So Lillard didn't really care about the situations either with either coaches. It's just a matter of who he personally liked for the job. And the point is that if your argument for a front office is what's more important, PR, where you might upset a handful of fans as opposed to losing, which will upset all the fans, then they prioritize winning over everything else. So I'm not surprised that they end up going this direction. I don't remember if I said on air I thought Becky Hammon would not get hired anytime soon to be a head coach. I think that a lot of people want to claim they want to be the trailblazer. See what I did there because it's Portland, but they don't actually want. Nice. But they don't want to actually be the first ones to do it.
Right.
Or you can talk about how even throughout history, if you want to talk about the first black head coach, the first Latino head coach, really just anything. People can say whatever they want publicly, but until somebody actually takes the steps of hiring somebody that fits that description, then everything they're saying means absolutely nothing. It's just lip service. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. That's absolutely true. So we'll see. What would your prediction be for Becky Hammon? How many years?
I think she's going to take over for Popovich.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the natural spot for her.
But am I shocked that Becky Hammon, who has been an assistant coach and Popovich loves her because she's been on his staff for a while, am I shocked she didn't get a job? No, because I thought that she would get a bunch of interviews. People would say like, "Oh, see, we're doing a due diligence." I don't want to say it's a Rooney Rule situation, but people can point to the cameras and say, "We're interviewing a woman. We're being progressive." And then it's like, "Oh, things didn't work out behind closed doors. Sorry, not sorry."
Yeah, I think, in Kansas City, we have a situation with Eric Bieniemy. It's kind of the same deal. I think I think a lot of times teams bring him in so they can check a box that they're complying with the Rooney Rule. And yet, one of the arguably co-architect of one of the most high-power offenses in NFL history who still remains without a coaching gig after 2 seasons. To me, that's incredible.
And you could also talk about the Pelicans right now because they have still not decided on a new head coach, but they have been linked to potentially taking a women assistant coach that they have on the team and promoting her to be head coach. Do I think she's going to get the job? No. Even though Zion loves her and the players seem to love her, she'll get a bunch of interviews, but I don't think she's going to get the job.
Okay, well, here's hoping you're wrong, buddy, but I have a...
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, too. I'm not trying to sound like, I'm biased towards female head coaches. I'm just saying in a situation where something has never happened before, a lot of people are going to be tiptoeing around being the first to do something without actually doing it. I think you'd say that that's a fair assessment of the situation.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. And, it's frustrating that a woman can't get a shot when you get guys like Lloyd Pierce, who totally washed out in Atlanta, and yet, right at the top of the list for a couple of the gigs.
I think Becky Hammon would be a fantastic coach. I just think that it's going to take her a while before she actually gets that opportunity.
I agree. I agree with both points. So, all right, there you go. Quick reminder, everybody, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us 60 minutes. We'll give you the winners. That's what we're fitting to do right now, Scott. Kind of a bittersweet weekend for us as Islanders fans. Friday night, they lost. Just a tough one. It was just a microcosm of their problems throughout the playoffs. They lose a 1-0 game to Tampa Bay as Tampa Bay scores a shorty, Scott. The team that hadn't given one up all season long gives up their second in the playoffs, and it ended up being a critical goal because it was the only goal as Vasilevsky did his thing.
I think it was the first of the playoffs. It was the only shorty of the season.
You sure?
I think so.
I
don't remember another short.
My kid told me it was the second, so
maybe on an empty netter or something, but I don't remember a second one.
Could have been. I don't know. Pretty big Islanders fan. So
point is, it was pretty rare for the Islanders.
If he's wrong, I'm going to roast him that I went with his information without checking it.
Either way, point is, it was a pretty rare situation for the Islanders to give up a shorthanded goal.
Yes, it was, and Scott, I got to tell you the story real quick. Is my son's moving back to Kansas City from Albuquerque. He had driven pretty much all night Thursday night. They got up at crack of dawn or whatever to get home, but. So he makes it home. He's got to pick up his key to his new apartment. He's got to drop off the moving truck. And then he's going to go down to a hockey bar, and meet his buddies. So by the time he got to town, the game had already started. He does all this stuff. He rushes around, takes the moving truck back, gets moved in a little bit, gets down to the bar, and gets to see about 15 minutes of the second period and all of the third period. So for all of that, he never saw the Islanders score a goal, never saw them have a lead, never saw it be tied. Just saw the whole awful part of the game. So
not really much to add. It was a 1-0 game. Tampa outplayed them the entire way.
Outshot them, outplayed them, looked like the better team. So now, Scott, they get rolling against the Montreal Canadiens, everybody's favorite overachievers. Scott, can the boys from Montreal keep it going?
I think they have a pretty difficult situation right now. I know Montreal actually liked going into the series. However, there have been a couple of COVID issues over the last day or two impacting Montreal, which I think are pretty concerning. Of course, the head coach is not back yet. He's supposed to come back allegedly for Game 3. That remains to be seen. However, there have been some more COVID issues because you have Armia, who has been a pretty solid player for Montreal in the postseason, as Joel Armia has, been stopped and put in COVID protocol. And he's not going to travel to Tampa for the Stanley Cup Finals, so that means he will be missing the first 2 games minimum for this series. And Armia's just a good player. Now, he had COVID earlier this season, ended up missing a couple weeks in March and April, and it's not great. So Armia has been a guy who has 8 points in 17 games, 5 goals, so he has been a pretty steady contributor. I think it's a pretty big loss, and I think Tampa is going to get off to a hot start in the series. I still think Montreal is a live dog in this series. I think it's going to be a pretty close one, either 6 or 7 games, but without a head coach and without one of their most underrated players, I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I think Tampa wins 2-1.
As far as the series goes, Scott, it looks like the bookmakers have kind of learned their lesson a little bit after making the Lightning about somewhere around a plus 380, plus 400 favorite or underdog rather against the Golden Knights. They are now, I said the Lightning, the Canadiens, sorry. They are now plus 230 as the Lightning are minus 275 favorites coming back the other way. Scott, don't like to lay a ton of juice, you know that, but I think there may be some value there at minus 275. I don't hate that price on the favorite.
I definitely understand that. Montreal, I think, is a very steady team, and they're a very solid team, which is why you might wonder if Tampa's in trouble, because they had problems with the Islanders, who are kind of similar to Montreal stylistically, but I think Montreal is just a little bit better because they have more goal scorers and Price is insane. But at the end of the day, I think Tampa has too much firepower, at least for Game 1. But I think with Vasilevsky and Price in net, I don't know how you look at it over in any of these games. I just see unders all over the place. You?
Yeah, it's currently sitting at 5.
Probably juiced to the over pretty substantially, right?
It's not. It's minus 111 over, plus 101 under.
I was assuming it was going to be 5 and 5 at like minus 125, minus 130. So never mind. No. But I can't really disagree with it.
No. And then the early line on the other game there, or what do I see in here?
I don't know which other game you're talking
about. I'm seeing alternative. Sorry, I thought they had the second game down there, but I'm seeing alternative. If you wanted to play under 4.5 plus 155, I don't hate that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Of course, overtime at 2-2 is really annoying in those situations.
Yeah,
I see a 2-1 game. I think it's a low score.
I agree. All right, very solid. And we do have, for now, Scott, we have one basketball game to talk about.
I'm actually going to look quickly at what the price is on the exact score being 2-1, but anyway, you can continue.
Plus 280.
I think it'll be higher than that, but you can keep going.
Okay.
Total's at 5, so I don't see 2-1 being plus 280. I think it'll be higher.
Okay. How about a little Suns and Clippers, Scott?
Oh, by the way, sorry, I'm pulling it up now. 60-minute score. 2-1 Tampa, 17-1.
Whoa.
2-1 Montreal is 22-1, but once again, that is no overtime.
Right.
Overtime 1-1 is 14-1. I'm still annoyed because I said the Islanders for Game 7, 1-1 and 2-2 at value. 1-1 was 15-1, and the Islanders couldn't get there. But I see 2-1 Tampa at 17-1. That looks pretty good to me.
You got 2-1 with overtime?
No overtime.
Okay.
I don't have an overtime inclusion, but 2-1 regulation for Tampa, 17-1. That's probably worth a sprinkle.
That's solid. That's solid for sure. Clippers, the Suns, Scott. Boy, that was an ugly game. Was that an ugly game or what on Saturday?
It was even uglier because we had the Clippers. But 29, I thought the second quarter, I said on Twitter, was the worst quarter I've ever seen. And then the fourth quarter had 29 points.
Awful.
And I realized how awful my take was because the fourth quarter was somehow even worse than the second quarter.
Yeah.
It was bad. 29 points is probably the lowest amount of points I've ever seen in a quarter in an NBA game.
Yeah, what does that come out to? 116?
That's Virginia basketball right there.
Virginia basketball.
That is bad. And you had the free throws at the end, so it was even more low scoring before they actually started intentionally fouling.
Yeah, that's what's incredible. There was, 10 points to scramble.
Yeah, you had about 19 points with like 3 minutes or 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
My goodness, they just couldn't hit anything.
Nope.
Just clanging off the front of the rim, back of the rim. All right, so for this one, Suns -5.5, total 215. Lines pretty much stayed the same, 5.5 across the board, but there has been under money, no surprise, come in right there. It has gone from 215 to 214, still finds some 214.5 in some spots. There's even a 215 out there at Billy Hill, but for the most part, that number is coming down. Scott, how do you feel about those line moves?
I like the under. I mean, there's not really much else to add. I mean, you're looking at the last 3 games, 104-103, 106-92, 84-80. Now, I'm not going to do the math in my head right now, but those seem like those are less than 215. So based on how the trend's been going, and how both these teams offensively, especially in the fourth quarter, just completely shut it down and run into, well, if we're not going to make a shot, might as well kill 20 seconds off the shot clock. I got to like the under, because the late game execution from both these teams is awful. I like really, really low-scoring games between these teams. I like the under. I just think that until you see one of these teams catch fire, if not both, you got to keep riding the under train.
Okay, I do have a premium play on this one, so I'll defer on the total. I think Suns get it done as far as the side goes. I don't love the 5.5 points.
I was going to say I think they get it done, but 5.5 sounds pretty high.
I think this could be a 3-point game right up until the time it's not, and then I think it ends at 7 or 8.
If I had to look at the actual side, I would take the points with the Clippers. I just think the Suns should not be favored by 5.5, especially with looking at the last couple of games. Suns have won these games in the series by 6, 1, and 4. I'm not laying 5.5.
Okay. All right, good enough. That's legit. I just think that the desperation sets in a game that could be 3 or 4 points. I think we get there.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. It should be interesting. But you think the Clippers are alive here?
I think they're live. I don't think they're going to win, but I think that they're good enough to compete for a full 48 minutes. But it really comes down to, do I trust Paul George in the fourth quarter when the team isn't really doing much else offensively? And the answer is no, because I watched him in the last game, and even though he has been pretty clutch for this team and he's been good overall, the shot selection that he's had in this series is atrocious. Go to the rim.
Seems a little impatient.
No, he just takes a bunch of step-back, mid-range jump shots when nobody else is doing anything. And I think that that's a concern because the Clippers late in games really just don't seem to have much of an offensive identity. They're taking a bunch of rush jump shots, really not running many quality sets. They're not going to the rim. I don't really know what they're doing half the time offensively, but I do think that the defense is good enough to keep this game close. And my philosophy, if you think it's going to be a low-scoring game, I don't really want to lay points with the favorite.
Fair enough. Yeah, this is a defense that Ty Lue implemented there after game 1. And it has been effective at limiting the productivity of the perimeter shooters for the Utah Jazz. The problem is DeAndre Ayton. They don't have an answer for him.
We said Utah Jazz. I mean Phoenix. I mean
the Phoenix Suns. Sorry for the Jazz. No, sorry. Ayton has been able to pretty much
Ayton can walk into 18 rebounds in any game.
That's the thing. He's owned the boards. He's owned the offensive glass. And when you've got a team like the Suns that aren't shooting well, to get those second and third chances, Scott, that's huge.
You think Boogie Cousins plays more just to try to limit the rebounding disadvantage, or no?
Maybe. What's the most he's played? Like 14 minutes? Played 14 minutes in the opener, right?
In game one, he had the poster dunk on Sarge. That's pretty much it. And then in the end of the last game, he didn't know the rule that you have to hit the rim when you miss a free throw.
That was just
He's
embarrassing.
been in the league for 11 years. I don't know how you don't know that. But the point is you're looking at who Ayton's been going up against, and Zubac can't really do anything against him on the boards. Boogie at least has the size to maybe get him into foul trouble. I'm just trying to throw out ideas for the Clippers to use.
Right.
They don't really have much of an answer for Ayton.
No, they don't. No, they've sacrificed the ability to do anything inside by chasing the guys and harassing them on the perimeter.
Yeah.
That part of it's worked out well, but they've left him too wide open and they've let him dominate the boards too much. So
I look at a player prop for Ayton rebounds. I'm not sure what the exact number is right now, but I do think whatever it is, it's probably too low. I think Ayton goes for a minimum of 15 in this game. Do you think that's fair?
I do. Let me see while you're doing that. Let me see if I can find if
I'm just looking at on FanDuel really quickly.
I doubt they have the props. Okay, I'm checking.
Ayton rebounds is 11.5 at minus 106 on the over. I have to like that.
That's a great play right there.
Yeah, so that's the player prop I like, and I like the under in this game.
Okay, very solid. All right, sir. Well, let's move on to the diamond, shall we? And got a couple of great pitching matchups here, Scott. Kind of interest you in Tyler Anderson and Kyle Freeland there in Colorado.
I do like Freeland, not really, but he killed me in his last start because he was actually really good against Seattle.
Yeah, what's up with that? Is that going to continue? Are we going to see another great Kyle Freeland start, or is it going to be the Kyle Freeland that we know and love?
Well, you know, his ability to pitch to contact worked extremely well in Coors Field, right? No, I think he's going to get shelled. His numbers in Coors Field are not good at all. And Anderson has been a mess for the last month or two. Now, I know taking an over with the Pirates, especially with double digits, is never a fun time. It's the pitching matchup you want for an over. I'll tell you that much. Because both these pitchers are not very good. Is that a fair way to put it?
It is. Are you afraid of that? Are you afraid of that 11?
I'd prefer 10.5. So if you shop around, maybe you can get 10.5, or maybe if you wait it out. But Pirates' offense over the weekend was actually pretty good against St. Louis. So the offense might be trying to find something. They were the worst offense in the league, and they still are in terms of runs per game. But lately, you want to look at Pittsburgh's numbers: 7 runs, 1 run, 5 runs, 8 runs. That was their 4-game series against the Cardinals. That's not bad for the worst offense in the league statistically. I think in Coors against Freeland and the Rockies bullpen, I think they can get to 7.
Yeah, this is a really bad Rockies pen. They're bad on the road. They're bad at home. And it's not a great Pittsburgh pen on the road either. So,
and you know the Rockies are really good offensively at home and really bad offensively on the road. So I see runs here. I like the over.
They rake. Yeah, this is a team that scores almost 6 runs per game at home. So, all right, I'll go with you on that one. I'll play the full game you like. You know.
Yeah, this is the kind of game where you randomly turn it on and it's like 4-4 in the 7th, and you think you're going to lose, and then both teams score 3 runs in the 8th.
Yeah, that's very possible. I would say that's a strong possibility. Can I interest you in Phillies at Reds, Scott? Reds big favorite here, minus 145 or so. Wade Miley goes. Wade Miley going against Spencer Howard for the Phillies. Who you got here?
Well, the question is, do I really want to lay this big of a price with the Reds and Miley? And the answer is no. Now, do I like the Phillies? I didn't say that either. But I do think this line is a little bit too high. I'm not a big Spencer Howard guy. But Cincinnati is another one of these teams where even though Philly's bullpen is another awful pen, Cincinnati's not much better. Oh. So you might not feel really confident until you see the last out recorded, because this game can go off the rails in the last couple of innings.
That's a Cincinnati pen, Scott. 5.67 ERA overall, 6.62 at home there at PNC Park. I mean, at
Great American?
Great American Ballpark, sorry.
Yeah, so for me, I guess it's Phillies or pass, but both those teams I don't really feel much about. You? I'm
Yeah,
hoping the Phillies are losing in that game because they can't hold a save to save their lives. So you kind of hope they come from behind because they won't have to maybe pitch out a save.
right.
But, damn, that bullpen's terrible, and Neris is falling apart. Or Neris, or however you want to pronounce it. The fact that he's still a closer is hilarious to me because he's just awful for the Phillies. But
Yeah, agreed. Spencer Howard's a guy that you're not going to get a lot of length out of. Most likely the longest he's going to go is going to be 4. He's made it through 4 twice this season. Congratulations. Decent stuff. Good peripherals, good strikeout numbers, but he can be a little wild, Scott. So we'll see how that goes. I don't hate the over there.
yeah, I don't hate it either, especially with those bullpens. Kind of a similar script without the Coors Field aspect to it. But Great American, also a very hitters-friendly ballpark.
Yep. Absolutely.
Other than that, I'd fade the Yankees. Bundy's not very good, but King's not good. Angels team total over 4.5 at Yankee Stadium, wind blowing out, 4.5 plus money. I'm tempted by that. Get 9 at bats.
So the wind is blowing out there at Yankee Stadium?
Out to left field.
Okay. Right.
And that's tempting.
Very good.
I would consider the Angels, but Bundy is so bad I can't do it.
Yeah, he's really. I was looking at his numbers. Like 4 starts ago, he had a 6.5 ERA. Since then, it's gotten worse.
It got worse because he had one really bad start. He had a couple of decent starts sandwiched. But do I think the Yankees with King, after getting swept, should be minus 155? Absolutely not. That's crazy.
Can I get you excited about Daniel Duffy returning for the Royals against Garrett Richards of the Red Sox?
I think plus 1.5 for the Royals at around minus 130 is tempting.
Yeah.
Red Sox, of course, can hit. Kansas City's offense has actually been okay lately. It's kind of the pitching staff that's let them down.
Yep.
But I think Duffy's pretty good. And if you think the Red Sox are going to be up going into the 9th, it means they're not batting in the 9th. So if you want the plus 1.5, you might get some value there because Richards, I think we'd agree, is not very good.
Lay the money with the Red Sox all the way. The problem with Duffy is he's been hurt, and he's made just 2 appearances since coming off the IL.
No length.
No length. He made a start, went 2 innings, 44 pitches, and then 2 days later on his normal side session day, he came out of the bullpen and pitched an inning. So he's absolutely not stretched out. He's in no position to go 3, maybe. Of course, Duffy is not the most efficient of pitchers. He doesn't like to he'll throw a lot of balls. So you're going to get probably 6 innings, at least 5 innings of the Royals bullpen. That should give the Red Sox plenty of time to make hay. So I'll take the Red Sox there and lay the number. I'll be tempted to play them on the run line as well.
That's fair. I'm not very interested in anything in that game, but looking at the actual plus 1.5 anytime with a road team, I'm tempted by it because I don't think Boston's bullpen's that good either.
Fair enough.
Looking at one other thing quickly, I think we got to talk about it. You lay the run line with Houston and then just leave it alone.
Trying to figure out how to make money in that play. I mean, it was the run
Team
line
total over? I don't know. Their offense wasn't great over the weekend, but they returned home in Baltimore. They just killed Eshelman last week.
Yep, it's Eshelman against Greinke, by the way. The odds on this one, pretty much Houston minus 300 seems to be the number.
It's about 160 on the run line.
Yeah.
And that's not plus 160. That's minus 160. So team total is 5.5 minus 121. I like it. I'll go with that.
Play the team total over there. Kind of takes the place of our play of the day on Friday that got washed out. Our
5.5. You're at home. Eshelman, is bad. Baltimore's bullpen, is bad.
I feel bad, Scott, because we do our bet the farm play, and that's be coming up here shortly. But the farmers need the rain, so I kind of feel bad about getting rained out. But they always say the farmers need the rain, so
crops are getting a bit dry.
That's it. So we had to make sure the farm was in good shape.
It's really tough to find value with huge favorites unless you want to go for a money line parlay. But I'm just looking at the team total. Or maybe Houston to score first and win at plus 107.
Yeah, I don't hate that. How about a hero play from the Arizona-St. Louis game, Scott?
Just take Arizona and pray St. Louis is awful again.
Can I interest you in the All-time record holder for road losses in a row, the Arizona Diamondbacks playing on the road behind Faria.
I think maybe first five's a decent option. Full game I can't argue with because when you lose 3 out of 5 at home against Pittsburgh, you got some problems on your hands. That's not good.
And you know who's rarely the answer to solve those problems?
Wade LeBlanc.
Wade LeBlanc. Wade LeBlanc is rarely the answer. I don't know. I guess there's a couple questions that he might be the answer, like who's a really terrible pitcher that you wouldn't want in this situation.
Who's a player who you thought retired 7 years ago but still somehow starting in 2021?
And the answer would be Wade LeBlanc. But
Irvin Santana, honorable mention for that answer.
He's made just one start this season, Scott, and it hasn't gone well. He pitched 2 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, 6 hits, 1 walk, struck out 2. So way to go, Wade. That's a nice, tidy ERA of 21.56.
Not great. Arizona team total over. If you're afraid of taking them on the money line, I think that's also a decent option.
That might be solid indeed. Because they
can hit a little bit.
They are still hitting a little bit. So you're going to get 3.5 there, Scott?
I'll check right now.
See what you got. I'm thinking we're going to get a juice 4.5.
3.5 minus 125.
I mean, a juice 3.5. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah,
I like it. I think that's way too low.
4 runs against Wade LeBlanc. That's 2 innings.
And the bullpen that's also fallen apart over the last.
And the bullpen who hasn't been good as well. So, all right, very solid. All right, Scott. Well, it is time to do what we do and put our heads together, come up with the best play, the one that we like the best. Like I said, we got rained out on Friday, so we're going to make a little hay here on this one. Time to bet the farm. All right, Scott, we're going to take another swing at it today. We're looking in the major leagues at the San Francisco Giants heading down to L.A. to take on the Dodgers. We're going to play the Giants team total over 2.5. And I know what you're saying. Wait a minute. Isn't Trevor Bauer on the mound for the Los Angeles Dodgers? Well, as a matter of fact, Scott, he is. But here's the deal. He hasn't been the dominating Trevor Bauer that you think he has been. He's allowed 3 runs or more in 4 of his last 5 starts. The Giants are raking, averaging 5 runs a game. That is 4th in the league. They've scored at least 5 runs in 10 of their last 12. Break up the Giants, Scott. They are in fuego, and they can score some runs. They can hit some dingers. I think that is a mighty fine farm play. I'm ready to bet the farm. Give me the Giants. Team total over 2.5. I don't hate a sprinkle on the Giants to win that one behind Anthony DeSclafani. I think it's a good pitching matchup. We debated a little bit, but this is the play we came up with. San Francisco Giants, team total over 2.5.
Keep hitting home runs and we're good to go.
That's absolutely true. So we'll see if Bauer melts down. You know that he stopped using a substance because he said he did. So we'll see how all that goes. And that is going to do it for the Monday show. Monday in the books, guys. Thanks for joining us here on Winners and Whiners Radio. We do appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to tell your friends, tell your neighbors. If you're watching this on the YouTube, don't forget to drop us a comment. Let us know what you think of the show. Appreciate it as always. And don't forget to stop by and check out WinnersandWhiners.com for deep dives and predictions into every game every day. For me, for Scott, for all of us at Winners and Whiners, take care, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.